Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to PhantomBuster 102, Expand Your Automations. My name is Ellen. I am an account manager here at PhantomBuster, and I will be taking you all through this more advanced product training. So if you want to go ahead and say hello in the chat. Hey, Amelia. Hey, Anna. As you've noticed, I have two team members joining me in the chat. We've got Anna and Amelia. You know they're part of the team because they have the team icon next to their name. So whatever they say in the chat, you can trust they know what they're talking about. Hi, Francisco. Thanks for joining. All right, we're just going to give it another minute for everyone to sign on and get comfortable. So if you want to go ahead and say hello in the chat, tell us where you're signing in from, and also just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, so everyone will be receiving the replay as soon as it's over. So if you need to leave early, not to worry, you will still receive the recording as soon as it's done in about 30 minutes. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, don't hesitate to ask them either in the chat or preferably in the questions tab. So as you can see at the bottom right corner, you should have the chat tab. Maybe you already have it open where you see some people have said hello, but next to chat, you can see questions. So that's a great place to ask any questions that you may have throughout the webinar. If you need maybe a clarification for something that I'm saying or any product related question, that's what Amelia and Anna are here to help us with. So any questions are good to go throughout the webinar. Otherwise, it's been 2 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and let's share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes, looks good. Awesome, thanks, Anna. Well, welcome again. Once more, my name is Ellen. I'm an account manager here at PhantomBuster. Thanks everyone for joining this more advanced product training. It's the first of our latest onboarding series. So welcome to PhantomBuster 102, Expand Your Automations. What we're going to be doing today is I will be doing a quick recap of the PhantomBuster 101 webinar. So I hope everyone who is here today has already attended the PhantomBuster 101 onboarding. If maybe one of my team members could share that sign up link in the chat. It is not required to have attended the PhantomBuster 101 to understand this next one, this current webinar, the 102, but we do highly recommend it because in the PhantomBuster 101, we go through in depth a tour of the website. So, make sure you know where you can find everything as well as the basics of automation and giving you the foundation. So I will be assuming everyone here knows at least the foundations either from your own experience or if you have already attended that 101 webinar. If not, I will be doing a quick recap today. We're also going to be getting into a little bit more detail for LinkedIn flows. So what's available to you either in your 14-day free trial or any of the paid subscriptions. We'll be talking about more creative lead generation. So giving you some ideas of, again, how you can be making the most out of your subscription, which other phantoms you can be using beyond the classic ones. We will also be showing you how to manage your LinkedIn leads directly on your PhantomBuster account. And then finally, we'll be talking about beyond LinkedIn, all of the other phantoms and flows at your disposal. So Google Maps, CRMs, and other flows that might be interesting to you. All right, so to start us off, I wanted to give a quick recap of PhantomBuster 101. So that first onboarding webinar that I hope you've attended. If not, we'll be going through the basics just now. So what we covered in the 101 webinar, we talked about the difference between a phantom and a flow. So as you can see here in this screenshotted example, this is our PhantomBuster catalog. So if you were to click on the Solutions tab at the top of your screen in the navigation bar, it would take you here to the catalog where you have access to all 130 plus phantoms and flows. So a phantom is a bot that is able to automate a single kind of action for you. That might be sending a connection request on LinkedIn. It might be scraping followers on Instagram. It might be sending messages on Twitter, that sort of thing. Whereas a flow is actually multiple phantoms combined into one or built into a single flow. in which case you set it up once and then the flow will carry out the entire sequence of actions for you on your behalf. So that's the difference there between a Phantom and a flow that you can find, all of which you can find here in the Phantom catalog. They're all named based according to exactly what they do. So the network on which they automate and then exactly what they do. So as you can see here in the upper left-hand corner, LinkedIn search export, it does exactly that. It exports the search results on LinkedIn. So you can search directly for any of the phantoms and flows you need there in the left-hand side in the search bar. Other reminder from the 101, what we covered in that first onboarding webinar, we talked about the resources that are available to, again, either your paid subscription or your 14-day free trial. So there at the top of the screen in the navigation bar, you can see the word resources. If you were to click there, it would give you a drop-down menu that includes our blog, coaches, help center, community, that sort of thing. So that's where you can go to answer any questions or find any of the resources that you might need to, again, make sure that you're being successful with your PhantomBuster subscription. All right, continuing with the recap of the 101 and getting into a little bit more depth of what we're going to be covering as well. Today, we talked a lot about chaining phantoms in the PhantomBuster 101 webinar series. And essentially what this means is creating your own flow or creating your own automated sequence. So the first thing that you always have to keep in mind when you are setting up your phantom is the input data that this phantom needs in order to give you the desired output data, or the output that this phantom is capable of either scraping on your behalf or automating on your behalf. So you're always going to have to make sure that the input that you're giving this phantom is the correct format or a compatible format. And then if you want to chain two phantoms together to essentially create your own sequence or create your own automated flow, you have to make sure that the output data of one phantom is compatible with the input data of another phantom. So as you can see here in this example, we have a LinkedIn profile scraper. This is, again, something that we covered in a little bit more detail in the 101 onboarding webinar, but we talked about how to chain two phantoms together. And this is what you'll see in the setup of every phantom when you are determining the input data that you're giving this phantom. So you're always going to have three options that you can see here. The one shown here is My Phantoms, where you'll choose from a drop-down menu all of the phantoms that are on your dashboard. So by selecting that one there, PhantomBuster 101 example, what I've done is I've permanently connected the previous phantom, in this case, the search export phantom, that output data or the results that this phantom is giving us is forever going to be connected as input for this next phantom in the sequence, in this case, a profile scraper. You do, of course, have other options. So the one in the middle there is a URL. So in that case, you can always give this phantom a publicly accessible Google Sheet or CSV file that has a list of LinkedIn profile URLs for this profile scraper to scrape on your behalf. Or you can use the My Lists function, which we're actually going to be getting into a little bit more detail in just a few moments. The My Lists is essentially comes from the LinkedIn database that you have on your PhantomBuster account, where, again, we'll be showing you in just a few minutes how you can create that perfect list. Once you've done that, you'll be able to select from the inside or the setup of any of your phantoms to then choose one of those lists that you've already curated on PhantomBuster to serve as input for that phantom. So that's the difference there between all of those different input types, but just to keep in mind that your input always has to be compatible for the phantom that you are using. All right, so that was the quick recap of the 101, everything that we covered in the basic onboarding. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to pop them there in the questions tab for my colleagues to clarify while I move on. Or of course, you can always attend the next iteration of our 101 webinar. But something that I wanted to highlight in a little bit more detail today, as we are showing you how to expand your automations beyond the basics that we did cover in the 101 webinar, is just this LinkedIn flows. So we've talked about how to actually chain different phantoms together to create your own flows and to create your own automated sequences, right? But of course, If you can avoid doing that, you should, because less work for you. We've tried to do as much of the work as possible on your behalf. So we've actually created these flows for you. So we've taken the most popular use cases, in this case on LinkedIn, and we've chained all of these phantoms together, put them into a single flow. So all you have to do is set it up once, enable it, and then it will carry out an entire sequence of actions for you on your behalf. So these are the three most popular and most powerful LinkedIn flows that I wanted to highlight for you all. The first one there on the left-hand side, we have the LinkedIn search to lead connection. What does this do? Well, you set it up once, and what it's going to do is it's going to scrape the results of a search on LinkedIn. So the search that you asked it to scrape. The flow is only as smart as you tell it to be. So be sure to give it as many details as possible and the proper input there in terms of what kind of search you're interested in scraping. But what it will do then is it's going to scrape the results of that search. It's going to send connection requests on your behalf to all of the results of that search. And then it's going to track whether or not they have actually accepted that connection request. And all of that data is going to be gathered for you in a single place on your PhantomBuster page, especially on the leads page that we'll get to in just a second. So this LinkedIn search to lead connection flow is very powerful, especially if you're just getting started and you're interested in expanding your network on LinkedIn. You can use a flow like this to have that expansion happen automatically with very little work on your part. Now, the next two examples that we have here, the LinkedIn outreach and the LinkedIn search to lead outreach, are very similar, but go a step further. So essentially what they're going to do is they're going to do everything that that first flow does, but also send up to 3 follow-up messages based on whether or not that particular profile has actually accepted your request. Now, the very important difference between these two flows, the LinkedIn outreach and the LinkedIn search to lead outreach, is the starting point, is the input. So I've already mentioned, and I'm going to mention again, that the input data is really important. You have to make sure that you have the proper format, or that your input is compatible for what the flow actually requires in order to function as you would like it to function. So in order to work, essentially. So the difference here is that the LinkedIn outreach flow, the one there in the middle, is starting from LinkedIn profile URLs. Let's say that you've already done a search. Maybe you did a search manually, or maybe you already have a database on your own, in your own CRM, filled with profiles that you know are various candidates or prospects that you're interested in connecting with. So in that case, you can go ahead and upload that list directly into the LinkedIn outreach flow. And based on that list, as opposed to a search, it's going to start from that list of profile URLs. It's going to send them connection requests, track whether or not they have actually accepted your connection request, and then again, send up 2-3 follow-up messages. The LinkedIn search to lead outreach does exactly that. It's just the starting point, or that input data, is different. It's the same as the first one. It is a search URL. So the LinkedIn search to lead outreach is my personal favorite because it does the most. It starts from a search. So it starts from truly ground zero, your starting point, and then it goes all the way to potentially sending up to 3 follow-up messages. Something that's really cool about those follow-up messages is that you can schedule them to send exactly when you want them to be sent. So you can have the first one sent 2 days after the next, or the most previous message, the next one sent 5 days, 10 days, you get to decide. And the flow is actually smart enough that as soon as one person responds, then they will be taken out of the flow and they will no longer receive those automated follow messages. So at that point, you as a person probably want to go in, read their message, and actually respond, start that conversation. But until they respond themselves, they will be still enrolled in this flow, and they'll continue to receive those follow-up messages on your behalf, kind of poking them to encourage them to accept your connection request. So these LinkedIn flows are really powerful, especially if you're just getting started, because all you have to do is enable them, and they will be running in the background on your behalf to grow your LinkedIn network. All right, so sticking with LinkedIn, but getting a little bit more creative, All of the results or all of the examples that we have discussed so far have been based on a very similar starting point. So either you already have that list of profile URLs, or you're starting from scratch and you're starting from a search. Now, a search is probably the easiest way to search for people, right? Just doing a classic search on LinkedIn. But let's say that you've really exhausted the search results and you've tried as many different filters as you can, and you're really just not coming up with any new leads, in which case you want to get a little bit more creative with your sourcing to find new leads, fresh leads, creative leads. Well, in that case, you can take advantage of the over 130 flows, phantoms and flows that we have, and use different phantoms to find various leads from different sources still on LinkedIn. So I've highlighted a couple of these phantoms here as various examples for you. If we start on the left-hand side, we have the LinkedIn post likers export. I think this is a great example if, let's say, there is an influencer who is particularly active in your industry on LinkedIn, and they're posting all the time, and they have hundreds of thousands of likes of people liking their posts. Well, most likely, if that person is liking that post, then they're interested in the topic, or they're also relevant in the industry or looking to get into the industry. So they could be an interesting prospect for you, an interesting lead for you. So using this phantom, the LinkedIn post likers export, you can actually export all of the people who are liking these particular influencers' posts, or, that's just an example, but anyone's posts who might be relevant, who might have a lot of leads or likes that would be interesting to you as well. Similarly, you can use phantoms like the LinkedIn company employees export. So let's say you have a company that you're interested in targeting. Maybe it's a company that's in the industry that you think would really like to, or would really benefit from your product that you're selling or your services that you're selling. Well, you can use phantoms like the LinkedIn company employees export to actually first filter who the decision makers are, or maybe who's in the marketing team or the product team, or whatever it is your use case may be. You can filter that directly within the phantom, and then you can scrape all of the relevant people, all of the relevant employees from a given company. So that's another creative way that you can find new, fresh leads using this phantom. And then the last two examples are similar, but again, effective. We've got the LinkedIn event guests export, and then the LinkedIn group members export. So if there are any relevant groups or events happening in your industry, obviously lots of people sign up for them on those LinkedIn pages. So as long as you're a member of that group, or as long as you are also attending that event, then you will be able to export all of the other members or all of the other guests. And again, those might be interesting leads for you to get in touch with or start engaging with their content as well. All right, so we've talked a lot about how to get lots of leads. We talked about classic searches. We talked about, on the previous slide, different, more creative sources to find other leads that are outside of a search. But now that you have all of those leads, what are you going to do with them? Well, you can manage them all in a single place on your PhantomBuster account. So this is an example of the LinkedIn leads page, or your LinkedIn leads database. You can find this directly in the top of your screen in the navigation bar. So exactly where you see it says LinkedIn leads. If you click this, it will take you here. You can see this example that I've made of PhantomBuster employees. But this essentially is a page where all of your LinkedIn leads, all of the phantoms, your LinkedIn phantoms that are gathering leads on your behalf, not only will they be creating results files for you and that you can see on that individual phantom basis, if you want to look at individual phantoms, but you can also look at all of the data that all of your phantoms are collecting in this single place in this database. So this is a really great resource for you all, because we always recommend that you automate on behalf of as many LinkedIn accounts as possible. Why do we recommend this? Well, because LinkedIn, as well as all of the other networks that you might want to be automating on, do have certain rate limits that you have to abide by. So it depends on the phantom, it depends on the action on which you're trying to automate. I can't give you all the numbers just now, but we do have plenty of resources in our help center, and of course our support team, who's happy to guide you through in a little bit more detail. But generally speaking, what we always say is, if you have a a regular free LinkedIn account, you can safely scrape about 80 profiles per day. Whereas if you're paying for your LinkedIn, be it a premium or Sales Navigator account, it's more like 150 profiles per day. So these numbers are not an exact science. They are recommendations that we say are a good starting point. It's also important to always warm up your account. So if you're just getting started with automating, it's important to start maybe slightly below the recommended limit and then gradually build your way up to the limit and potentially go even more, because we want the phantoms to look as human-like as possible for LinkedIn to see that there's not a suspicious, all of a sudden huge surge of activity on your account. But the reason why I share this today is because when you are automating on behalf of multiple LinkedIn accounts, let's say you are on the sales team and you're one of 5 on your team, well, then you can use a single PhantomBuster account and you can automate on behalf of all 5 of your team members' LinkedIns to get 5 times the amount of data than if you were just automating on behalf of your own account. So this is important now because not only are you getting that much more data, in the example I gave, potentially 5 times more data on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, but now in this new LinkedIn leads page, you have all of those LinkedIn leads being fed to the same database. So once you're here in the database, what you can do is create a list. So you can use the filters that we have. Basically, all of the filters are based on all of the data that has been collected. You can filter based on any of the data there. So you can create the perfect list depending on your particular use case, your particular campaign. And then once you've actually saved that list, then you'll be given the option to either enrich or engage with this list. So this is great if you want to, build on your, take all of the leads that you have for one campaign. Maybe you want particular people who fit this particular category. So you can draw upon this huge database that you've been gathering over the months, over multiple campaigns, using multiple different phantoms. Now here in this single leads database, in the single leads page, you can create that perfect list using those filters, and then you can engage with that list. So maybe connect it to a LinkedIn Auto Connect Phantom to send connection requests, or maybe you want to start liking those people's posts, so you can use the auto post liker, or you want to start commenting on their posts to start engaging with their content. Maybe you're interested in enriching the list. Maybe you want to scrape all of the profiles to actually learn more about them. Maybe you want to use the professional email finder to find professional verified emails. So truly the options are endless in terms of what you can do with these lists now that you've created them. But using the LinkedIn leads page gives you better ability to, without ever leaving PhantomBuster, to truly organize and manage and take the next best steps for your automation needs directly here in the leads database. All right. So all of that to say, we have spoken a lot about LinkedIn lead generation because it is quite powerful and quite popular for all of our PhantomBuster users, particularly our power users. But as you probably heard me say, we do have over 130 different phantoms and flows in our phantom catalog. And despite what I've been talking about for the past 23 minutes, they are not actually all LinkedIn and Sales Navigator phantoms. So I thought we could also talk a little bit about the other opportunities that you have to automate still using your PhantomBuster subscription. So here's just a little visual to demonstrate all of the networks on which we automate. So certain examples, we've got Instagram, Google Maps, Yellow Pages, Yell, email discovery, Slack. I've included all the little logos here so you can read on your own, of course, GitHub, Reddit, YouTube, truly many, many options. We also have a program where we can build custom phantoms. So if you do have custom needs that you cannot find in our existing catalog, then you can always reach support. Support is the be all end all. They will know who to direct you to, in which case they can direct you to our team that is focused on building those custom phantoms as well. But this visual that I have here on the left-hand side, that is exactly what you would see when you're on your own PhantomBuster account. So you can toggle between all of them, between all of these categories to find exactly the phantoms and the networks that you're looking for. A few examples of phantoms and flows that I wanted to highlight as particular favorites, not only for me, but also for our users. So one that I think is extremely powerful, on the left-hand side there, the Google Maps search to contact data. This is a flow. What this flow does is it combines two phantoms. Actually, it combines a Google Maps search export. So essentially you give it a search on Google Maps and it's going to scrape all of the results of that search. And then it's going to take it another step and it's going to visit each of the domains or each of the websites that Google Maps search gave you. So let's say that you did a search for restaurants in Paris because you're interested in going out to eat, or no, maybe you're interested in selling your service to them because you have a software that would be really powerful for restaurateurs in France. So you can use this flow, you can use the Google Maps search to contact data flow to initially find all of the relevant restaurants in the area that you're targeting. And then it will actually go and visit each of those restaurant pages to scrape the relevant contact data. So that could be an email, a phone number, a LinkedIn page, that sort of thing. You can use this flow to not only identify the restaurants that you want, but also get their contact data to then take it the next step and reach out to them, sell your product, do whatever it is that you want to do. The phantom that I have there displayed in the middle, the data scraping crawler, is also super powerful. It's actually the second phantom of the flow that I was just describing, that Google Maps search to contact data. But essentially the data scraping crawler is a phantom that requires you to give it website URLs or website domains, and then it will crawl that website for the email address, phone number, social media data, anything basically that you tell it to crawl for. So this can be super useful if you already have a list of particular websites and you need to reach out to them on, whatever medium that you can find. You can use this phantom to find that medium, find that contact data for you. And then the final flow that I wanted to highlight for you all is the Instagram hashtag search to post engagement. So this one is exactly what it says it is in the title. So you can create a search on Instagram using those hashtag searches. So for all of you who are addicted to Instagram the way that I am and the way that I think many of us are, you can engage daily or weekly, however often you would like. You set it up within that flow. You find the results of that hashtag search, and then this flow will take a next step to start commenting on those posts with the relevant hashtag to, again, boost your presence and help you become the influencer that I know that you are destined to be. All right, switching gears here, but still talking about the things that are possible using the various phantoms that we have in our catalog. We've talked a lot about all of the different data that your phantoms can be collecting, not only the LinkedIn ones where that data is going to the LinkedIn leads page, but also Instagram, the data scraping crawler, like truly any of the phantoms. Maybe the LinkedIn leads page isn't enough for you, or maybe as much as you're using the LinkedIn leads page, you also want to be putting this data in your own CRM, in which case we do have 3 CRM Enricher phantoms that you can use. So we have direct integrations with HubSpot, Salesforce, and Pipedrive. So you can use any of these phantoms, depending on which CRM you yourself or you, your team are using. And using this phantom, you can automatically connect all of the data that your phantoms are gathering to be uploaded into your CRM. And the really cool thing about these phantoms, well, there are 2 cool things. The first one is that there are no limits. So unlike the limits I was describing with LinkedIn of 80 or 150 per day, with the CRM Enrichers, we do not have the same limitations that LinkedIn imposes. But the other really cool thing about these CRM Enricher phantoms is that they are smart enough that they will enrich the existing contacts and then they will create new ones. So let's say some of the data that your phantoms have collected, you already have that profile in your CRM. When you upload the new data into your CRM using one of these enricher phantoms, it will update all of the existing contacts and create new ones for the new contacts. So that means that you don't have to worry about messing up the data that you already have within your CRM. In reality, these phantoms are just going to help you enrich it and organize it even more. Something else that I can mention that I think one of my teammates will pop in the chat for me. If you use a CRM that is not HubSpot, Salesforce, or Pipedrive, Not to worry. Yes, thank you, Amelia. She just linked it in the chat. We do have a guide for you for how we recommend setting up using another service such as Make, formerly Integromat, or Zapier to automatically connect your Phantom's data to a different CRM if you happen to not be using any of these three options. You can, again, of course, also reach out to us to potentially create a custom Phantom for your custom CRM. All right, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about is finding the necessary URL with our URL Finder Phantoms. So we've talked a lot about how different Phantoms require different inputs because the input matters because it has to be the correct format in order for that Phantom or flow to work properly. And a lot of the examples that I gave were, LinkedIn search URLs, LinkedIn profile URLs, that sort of thing. But let's say that you don't have the proper input. You don't have that LinkedIn profile URL. Well, in that case, you can use our URL Finder Phantoms. So I've listed all of them here. We've got the LinkedIn company URL Finder, LinkedIn profile URL Finder. Those are some of the most popular ones, but we also have them for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So these are very powerful if, again, you know what you want to look for, but you don't have the proper starting point. Then you can use these Phantoms to find the perfect input data and then chain it to the first Phantom that we talked about or that flow that we talked about, maybe the LinkedIn outreach or maybe directly into the LinkedIn auto connect, that sort of thing. So you can actually use these Phantoms to find the input that you need to, again, continue working and automating properly and efficiently. All right, so that concludes this final onboarding webinar, PhantomBuster 102. Thanks everyone for joining. It looks like there were no questions, so I hope that means that it was all very clear. Some things that I wanted to share with you all before we go, a couple of extra resources. Don't forget to take advantage of our community Slack channel. So I'll go ahead and pop that in the chat. Oh, thanks, Francisco. Happy to help. Love the feedback. So yes, we do have our Phantom community Slack channel. So I just posted the invitation link in the chat. So feel free to join our free community and we can continue the conversation there. Also, don't hesitate to keep an eye on our events, our upcoming events via our event page. So I do host fairly regular webinars. So we'll be posting about them in the Slack community, in the newsletter, or you can just look directly there on the events sign up page. And then finally, you can always check out our YouTube channel, which has a lot of the recordings of our previous webinars, as well as lots of really handy tutorials. I promise the tutorial videos are only a couple minutes long as opposed to 30 minutes long like this webinar. But all that being said, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for my team for handling the questions, even though there weren't many. And have a lovely rest of your day. So happy holidays, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.